On with everything. The idea for this talk actually came from, do you guys remember an old Zen master teacher who came over in the 70s named Sunru Suzuki Roshi? Do you remember him? He was one of the first ones to land on this soil. And he said, "You are perfect just the way you are, but you could use a little improvement." You are perfect the way that you are, but you could use a little improvement. The Bible says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your heavenly Father is perfect." Be ye therefore perfect. The word actually is not perfect. The word is whole. Whole. It's a mistranslation, like so many things are in the Bible. Now it makes more sense. Be ye therefore whole and holy, and know that in that you are already perfect. We all suffer the limitations of our humanness. Not just our aches and pains, but our fear, our anger, our pettiness, our grief. Fact is, we do practice being human in every waking moment. And the most mindfully way we practice, when we do practice mindfully, helps us resolve all conflicts. We see them disappear before our eyes. And then we can more easily create new possibilities of relationship and community. Not by getting rid of those things that make us human, but by integrating them into ourselves. The student said to a great master, "I'm searching for the light. Please help me." And the master said, "Forget the light. Give me the reaching. Give me the reaching. That which is desiring. Give me that." The beautiful symbol in Buddhism is the lotus blossom that is so beautiful to look at. But when you look deeply inside, you notice that the tentacles go right down into the mud. The sticky, gooey, muddy stuff of life is where we live and move and have our being. But the truth is, we're not meant to stay at the bottom. We're meant to allow that energy from our desire to awaken, that urge to be who we truly are, to be lifted up in us. And that happens a lot for me and for most of us when we enter into a new year. We all decide we want to make some changes. Anybody decide that this year? I'm going to make some changes this year. We really want to have things be different. A part of us is dissatisfied with how things are. And so we want to do something to become satisfied, more satisfied with ourselves. And so we embark on the adventure of self-improvement, to improve ourselves, to make ourselves better than what we were. We're all seeking that. Even an amoeba, you take an amoeba, put it in a pond, and it will move towards the nutrient part of the pond. You look at someone who goes to a store and buys a lot of products for their hair. I was noticing a guy in the gym in the shower. I was not noticing him. I was noticing the amount of hair and skin care products this man had. There were like 6 different products for his face, for his hair, for this, for that. He was trying to make himself look prettier, to improve himself. We all do that. The YMCA in January is packed with all the people who are now going to work out. They want to improve themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a gateway into awakening to who we truly are. It's a path that we take. It's an entrance point into becoming all that we're meant to be. Because we know we're supposed to be doing better than we are. Everyone knows this. And we all have a plan to help improve ourselves. Nothing wrong with improving the mind-made self. In fact, it's the way we begin. You have to begin with something. So the desire to want to improve yourself is huge. Many of you came to this church because you wanted to hear a message about being able to change, right? All of us want to know that we have the capability to change ourselves, to awaken to who we truly are. So we enter into the path of taking some class to manifest our dreams, to make our goals come true. This is a great way to begin the process. But something happens along the way. And we discover something that surprises us. That the very self we've been looking to improve is the very self that we already are. That is already perfect, just the way it is. And when we discover that and stumble into it, something changes in us. But it begins with self-improvement. Buddha said, desire is the root form of all suffering. I want to add, and it's also the gateway to awakening. You notice you're suffering. You notice how we suffer. Human beings suffer all the time. We suffer, we think something's wrong, we feel dissatisfied, we want to move towards that which will bring us satisfaction. And so we enter into a path of awakening. Even Buddha did that. He was Siddhartha the prince, living in this beautiful place. He had manifested everyone's dream in this room. Everything anybody could possibly want. This dude had. Every beck and call, every beautiful woman, every delicious meal, everything you ever treasure mapped for, he had. But something within him was reaching for something greater. And so he left all that behind and went on a self-improvement program. He did. He took every one of the teachings that were known on the planet at that time and began to work with them. And he learned everything he could from all the teachers and all the teachings. He mastered them all, literally. And what he found was none of them were giving him what he was really looking for. But he had to go on the journey to get there. What he finally found was everything he was searching for, he already had. When he sat underneath the Bodhi tree, he got his awakening. And what happened was, Siddhartha lost himself. And he found his Buddha nature. Do you hear that now? Jesus lost himself as Jesus, the persona of the carpenter's son, and he found himself awake in Christ consciousness. And it happens with every impulse and desire we have to move ourselves forward. You don't lose anything, you gain everything. I know when I got on the path, I was looking initially to improve myself. I was 22 years old, I had a lot of energy, and I had a mind-made self that needed some serious improvement. I knew that I did. I didn't want to keep going in the direction I was going in because I'd probably end up there. So I got into science of mind, and I began to work with affirmations and denials. Affirmations, affirming the self I wanted to be. Denials, letting go of the self that I'm not. All of these things were necessary. I also became completely obnoxious to live with. If you think I'm obnoxious now, you have no idea how obnoxious I was. And everybody should only think positive thoughts. And if you were not thinking positive thoughts, I would let you know. And it was impossible to be with me. Because it was like, that's not positive. You're thinking negative thoughts. That's why you're getting a cold. That's why you have sniffles. That's why your children are the way they are. Just follow me. I'm the way, the truth, and the light. It was awful. But I needed that. I needed to improve myself. And I did. I became a much more positive person. And that was an important part of my journey. That self-improvement along the way. And then you stumble onto something along the way. One of my teachers very early on was Chad O'Shea. Reverend Chad O'Shea is no longer with us. He died last week. He made his transition. What was the name of the church he was from again? Unity of the Mills, the Hills, the Mills. It's by Asheville. He was a great teacher, an incredible irritant in my life as well too, as he was for everybody. He was like Ram Dass with a bad attitude. I mean, he was so good at stirring people up and getting you out of what you thought you know so you could understand who you really were. So I remember the chapel talk we had to give? When we were in ministerial school, this is after a year and a half of training, you got in front of the chapel and you spoke to all of Unity Village and you gave your talk. So I gave my talk, I did my typical Richard Levy thing, 23 years old, and did my thing, and everybody gave me a standing ovation, yay me, yay me. And then when I was in line, Chad was there. At that point, Chad had long black hair, a beard down to here. He was a teacher at a ministry. His first wife was going to ministerial school, and he always wore a guitar around his back. He was always ready to play a tune. And he walked up to me and he said, "Congratulations, you're a great speaker." I said, "Thank you, Chad." He said, "So when are you going to get over yourself?" I still haven't gotten over myself. You obviously see that I haven't. But what he meant was, this is just the beginning. Self-improvement is just the beginning. And at that point, I wasn't ready to hear him say that. I was really kind of insulted by that remark. But the truth was, he showed me something about myself that later on I began to understand. That everything I'd been looking for, I already had within me by birthright. That oftentimes, the path of just self-improvement comes up short. Because sometimes you get what you want, your treasure map comes true, you meet your goals, the check's in the mail, you find your soulmate, and sometimes you don't. But it's a great place to start to uncover your deeper self. So you all have some New Year's resolutions you've made. I wrote down some. Tell me some of the ones that you've made this year. Call them out.
Lose weight.
What's that? Lose weight?
Yeah, like everybody else.
Okay, what else?
Exercise.
Yep, what else?
More divine order.
More divine order, what else?
Be a victim.
Yep. We all have, those are great doorways, gateways to awakening. I wrote down a list, lose weight, be calmer, not be so anxious, stop drinking, start drinking. That's not funny, and I can't help with that one. Stop fighting with my wife. Change my husband's personality. Stop procrastinating. Be kinder. Get rich. Be popular. All those things are good things. You don't give them up when you get on the path. You don't become less of what you are. You become more of who you truly are. And then the personality, which you're always trying to improve, becomes a vehicle for that. I'm still just as full of myself as I was then. But the truth is, I don't care what you think about me as much anymore. Because I know I'm not going to be all that different than what I am. At this point, I just share the gifts I have to share. What made Chad so amazing was he was authentic, and he really didn't give a rat's kiss what you thought about him. And he was always good at coming forward with what was his unique gift to share, and not being afraid of how it would be received. That was a great gift that he gave me, and I'll continue to try to live that way in my own life as well. So how many here have your white stone with you? You got your white stone, the one we filled out? So we went through a process of sort of getting rid of everything that's no longer what we want to see in our life. We burned it in the burning bowl, and then we had this white stone. And my white stone, that I wrote something down on, I actually had in the vision before we did the ceremony last Sunday. And it came to me very clearly that this was where I was moving towards for this year. So what does it say?
This is it.
This is it. This is my affirmation for the year. This is it. This is not what I would have written 5 years ago or even 20 years ago. It would have been much longer, and it would have been very specific about what I wanted to do to improve myself. But the truth is, I'm not trying to improve myself anymore. I'm trying to awaken to my true self.
Yes.
So this has become my this is it. It's not any better than where it is right now. My wife will not be any different. My church may not ever be any larger. I drive the car I drive. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. It is what it is today. My wife has a cold. I don't need to beat myself up because I may get one next week and maybe I won't. All of that doesn't matter anymore. This is it. That's the self that says to you, show up fully for the life that you're in now. Doesn't mean you don't do self-improvement. Doesn't mean you don't take the courses. Take every single one of them. But not to get something you don't already own by birthright. So I took this with me to the 3 days we had of going to Topsail right after the service on Sunday. There were 6 unity ministers, 6 leaders in the movement, all meeting together to have a time to relax in Topsail, this beautiful 3-level home that has a great view of the beach, and the congregation member from one of my friends got it for us. It was free, and you could see the beach for miles this way, miles that way, and it's so freezing out now. Nobody else was there. So Sunday, we all went dragging our tired bodies after New Year's and Christmas services. We were all ready to just relax, to stop and calm and rest. So about 3 days before, one of my friends called up who got us the house. He said, do you mind if we bring our dog to the gathering? And it's kind of like, well, this is the guy that got the house. The dog's name is Aloha. I said, sure, you can bring Aloha. I'm going to say no to Aloha. We're all dog people. We're not going to bring ours, but sure. So we get there, and we're all just 6 o'clock. Nothing sadder than 6 o'clock on Sunday, unity ministers, some who had driven 9 hours to get there, just sort of standing there. And we meet Aloha. Aloha's 10-month-old puppy. It weighs 50 plus pounds. Aloha is not trained. Aloha doesn't poop or pee in the house, but that's all Aloha doesn't do. Aloha is like jumping all over the furniture and knocking things over. And when you're sitting there, my friend and I are going, no, we don't want to have to deal with this. Oh, don't leave your food on the table. Aloha will eat it. I don't want this now. You talk about, this is it. I don't want this. On This Is It. And so my friend and I, we were almost crying. We wanted to, David Miller, we wanted to rest so badly. And boing, 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 boing. What do you think Maureen did?
Play to the dog.
She started training the dog immediately. Which is what Maureen does. She started taking care of the situation that was at hand. You don't train dogs, by the way, you train the people who own them. And Maureen started doing that with this dog. And after 2 days of being trained, the dog actually was at Maureen's side for the whole time we were there. Because everything wants discipline. And you're not doing anybody a favor by not doing that. The dog actually loved that it was being contained and taken care of. Because then he got more time to be with the people he wanted to be with, rather than in the cage upstairs, locked up. This is it. Nothing happens next. Your life isn't waiting to happen. It's what's happening now. This situation, the dog in the house, 2.5 days, there was nothing I could do about that. That was what was. I couldn't change that. However, I could change my attitude about how I chose to see it. The situation was what the situation was. Do you have some situation in your life that you really can't change? Your suffering doesn't come from the situation. It comes from your attitude about the situation. That's what causes the suffering. Another dog story. When we were in Hawaii, we had a dog named Alka, and Alka was this amazing dog with just a sweet, sweet energy. And we had a place for her up on top of this mountain in Waimea where the kids had about 2 acres of land, and there was a horse there. And Alka used to love to chase the horse all over the place, knowing she'd never catch the horse, but she'd chase it with complete abandonment. And it was towards the end of her life, and we knew that she didn't have much longer to be with us. She had a cancer in her right rear hip, and her rear leg was just basically dangling like this. And we just knew she was in a lot of pain, and that we'd have to pretty soon put her down. So we're all together for what we thought would be our last moments with her. We called the vet who made house calls to bring the injection to put her down. And we're all just really crying and weeping and saying goodbye to this amazing pet. And all of a sudden, the horse comes up to the fence and goes, brr, brr. Alka jumps up, literally, from the middle of our healing prayer circle and takes after that horse, as if every bone in her, dragging her rear leg like this, and jumping over fences and woof woof. She lived, we gave her a couple more weeks of doing that. See, for Alka, pain and suffering were different. She was in pain. But she didn't suffer because of her thoughts about the pain. She didn't go, oh my God, this is my last run, I've got cancer, I better be really present now and take my last run, and these people are going to do me in. She had none of those thoughts. All she had was who she was. Alka, the dog that chases a horse. That's all she did. But you and I were different. We have consciousness, don't we? We get to look at what's going on inside of our mind and be aware. Oh, I'm suffering. Why am I suffering now? Well, because I'm attaching myself to something I don't like and I want it to change. That's not bad that you want it to change. It's just that in not accepting it, you're probably not going to enjoy yourself. Do you know 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I would have been completely livid about that dog. I would literally have not enjoyed any of the 2.5 days of my time. I would have just been in a tiffy. I would have said, I'm going off to meditate by myself and I want nothing to do with this, and I would have had a lousy time. But I know enough now that when you pull the rock out and it says, this is it, this is it. Enjoy what you get. The 2.5 days were wonderful. The dog mostly drove me crazy. But the dog wasn't the problem. My mind and my thoughts were the problem. That's always the problem. Not what's happening to you, but what you're choosing to call it and claim it. And we all left and we held our hearts open and we gave Aloha a big kiss and a hug and thanked her because once again, She got to be our greatest teacher for all of us, and we vow. Isn't that amazing? That's what this work is doing for all of us. So let's go to a lesson summation for a moment. You are perfect the way you are, and you could use a little improvement. And by the way, don't look at someone else and say, I'm perfect and you could use. I did that several times with one of my favorite teachers this week. We all suffer the limitations of our humanness. Not just our aches and pains, but our fear and our anger and our pettiness and our grief. The fact is, we do practice being human in every waking moment. And the more mindfully we practice, the more often our conflicts dissolve. The more easily we create new possibility for relationships and community. Next slide, please. I'm reaching for the light. Please help me. Forget the light. Give me the reaching. Self-improvement always begins with dissatisfaction, but it can be used as a gateway to help us train and focus our mind, which we need all the time, all the time. When self-improvement becomes the great desire, it brings our life into balance, leading to the hidden treasure of inner freedom. And when, my friends, the great desire to awaken meets the great satisfaction of receiving what you've already been given, I call that a moment of heaven on earth. May you have many of those moments as you practice being the perfect, whole, holy self you already truly are. Namaste.
Namaste.